Well, last chapter, Joey went on a field trip, and it did not go well. Are we surprised? He ate practically a whole shoe-fly pie by himself, climbed up into the barn, jumped off, and you know what happens when you jump off of a high place. You hurt yourself. Joey. Chapter 7, Gifted and Talented. Mrs. Maxey had a conference in the morning, so our class had a substitute named Miss Adams, who didn't know me from Adam. This was a good break, because after the field trip Mrs. Maxey said she and me and Mrs. Howard and Mrs. Jarzab and my mom and Nurse Holyfield were all going to have a big meeting to discuss the next step for me. I know she wasn't talking about my ankle. That much I was sure of. But since Mrs. Maxey didn't show up, I stopped worrying about what might happen. There were other things going on right before my eyes. After Miss Adams took roll, it was announced over the loudspeaker in the classroom that all the students in the Gifted and Talented program were to be released to meet in the auditorium for a special presentation. A handful of students stood up, and I did too, and followed them right out the door. Maria was at the front of the line, and I was the last, so she didn't even see me, or she would have snitched. I know if Mrs. Jarzab saw me, she would be upset about yesterday and probably send me down to Mrs. Howard. So, instead of going in the regular auditorium door, I went around to the side door that opened to the back of the stage. I had gone in there before because when the huge velvet stage curtain was pulled open, I loved to hide behind the folds in one end, and I could stand there forever wrapped up in the soft blue velvet like a caterpillar in a cocoon. So I tiptoed onto the back of the stage and slipped into one of the folds of the curtain and stood still with the dusty velvet tickling my nose. Before long, Mrs. Jarzab introduced a woman named Mrs. Cole, who had written a book on character counts, which was one of Mrs. Jarzab's favorite slogans. Then she introduced Mrs. Cole to the gifted and talented students and said they were a very special bunch of children, the cream of the crop, she called them. Mrs. Cole was very excited and began to speak as loud and as intense as a television preacher. Special people have to do special things for others less fortunate, she declared. This is one of the great duties for people with exceptional character. In a roundabout way, she was talking to me. I knew I'd never be part of the gifted and talented program. That much was true, but I was one of the special people. My mom said I was special. The nurse said I was special. And I was also in special ed. So I really listened to everything she had to say, and I liked what I heard. That because we were the special kids, we had to make sure we put our energy and talent to the work for the benefit of the whole world. Think of it this way, she said, as if she were telling the greatest secret ever. All of you in this room have the power to change the world for the better. You might invent something like computers, discover a cure for a disease, and save millions of lives. Like Mother Teresa, you might devote yourself to helping people who have no one else to help them. Perhaps you could be the president and set an example of superior leadership, or you could contribute your time and effort to build a better community. She went on and on about how it was up to the special gifted and talented kids to lead the way for others, and that if we each pledge to be a positive force in the world, then the world will be a better place for everyone. And it all starts one person at a time, she said. So I want each of you today to accomplish something special that is an example to your peers that character counts. Everyone clapped, but I didn't dare, so I did my own sneaky clapping by blinking my eyes up and down, really fast. What she said was true. Already I was thinking about something I could do during the day that would make the world a better place because of me, Joey Pigza. After the assembly, I didn't want to go back to class, so I hobbled down to the nurse to have her check on my ankle. From all that standing, it had started to throb. I knew nothing big was wrong with it, but the throbbing gave me a reason to see the nurse, who was always happy to see me. I was wearing a regular shoe on one foot, and I had the rabbit slipper from Mrs. Howard on the other one, that was twisted. The nurse looked at my ankle, then squeezed it and flipped it back and forth. This is nothing, she said, and nicked my chin with her fist. Swallowing the key was worse. I could never swallow my ankle, I said as a joke. Lord, I hope not, she said and laughed. I don't think nature would take its course. Then she took an ace bandage out of a metal cabinet and wrapped the ankle up for me tight so that it would feel better. You can keep the bandage as long as you use it. Okay, I said. I was thinking of using it to wrap myself up like a mummy for Halloween. Do you have any more? I have some old ones, she said, but first let's see your ankle healed before we mummify you, okay? Okay, I agreed. I loved being agreeable. I loved the nurse, and I thought she did a lot of special things, so I told her in a whisper that I had snuck in the gifted and talented speech, and Mrs. Cole told us to do one really good thing today, I said to her. I think that's an excellent idea, Mrs. Holyfield whispered back. So what do you have in mind? I'm still thinking about it, I said, but it's coming. Well, keep working on it, she said. I am, I replied, and stood up. As long as I walked in straight lines and didn't twist my foot right or left, then it didn't hurt so much. See you later, she said. Now, of course, this chapter goes on, and we will get to it because, the next part of this chapter is a doozy. So stay tuned for tomorrow's Read Aloud, where we finish chapter 7.